Hello, everyone. Welcome to VMN Business Talk. Today, we are diving into a very hot topic in this economy for every individual, and that is health insurance. In their commitment to educate New Jersey residents, this live stream discussion is brought to you by Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey. Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey focuses on creating a positive and patient-centered experience, empathizing communication, accessibility, and responsiveness. They strive to improve the quality of care by providing evidence-based practices, integrating behavioral and physical health, and supporting providers with resources and tools. This stream will be filled with valuable information, so stay tuned. If you'd like to catch up on past episodes covering all things business, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and YouTube. We truly appreciate the follows, comments, and likes. They help us bring even more valuable conversations your way. My name is Diana Spinka. I'm the producer of this show. And as always, I'm here with our host, networking and marketing expert, Victor Nichols. Hello, Victor.
Hello, this is exciting.
Yes, it is. And we're thrilled to welcome today's guest, Robert Alfieri. Hello, Robert.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me, Vic and Diana.
Oh, this is
Robert is a chief educator at the Health Insurance Professors, a healthcare professional with over 14 years of experience at Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, who is helping individuals, families, and small businesses make smarter, more affordable healthcare choices. With a deep understanding of the insurance landscape and passion for client service, he's helped save clients over $1.5 million in healthcare costs through personalized guidance and expert analysis. Robert, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, the first question for you is, you've been in this field for so long. What keeps you passionate about healthcare after all these years?
Well, having worked for Blue Cross and Blue Shield for a little bit over 15 years, I worked on a specialized team with them that was dedicated to doing what was best for the clients and really providing a personalized type of service that didn't just stop with the sale. It also continued after the sale with customer service and providing access to internal teams to resolve issues for clients and such. And in the landscape today, there's a lot of things that change throughout the year. And I'm the type of person, I love to be out communicating with people. I love to be helping people. And that's really the thing that drives me most. And I would say, fairly often, there's so much turnover in this industry where there is not many professionals that have an extreme level of knowledge about the nuances of the market. And when I'm able to help a client deal with a difficult circumstance, a divorce, losing a loved one, transitioning from jobs, getting laid off, and help them, not just be in the best solution for them benefit wise, but also, looking at their costs and being able to keep their costs as low as possible. The thank you from them is the thing that, helps keep me going. I often relate it to when I'm having a bad round of golf, and and then all of a sudden I get a nice shot, and I'm like, oh, that'll keep me going for another couple rounds,
that's my every round.
Exactly. So I love what I do. I try to learn as much as I can. I'm always. It's not often these days where I learn something new, but when I do learn something new, it's always a valuable thing that I can bring to my clients.
Is that what drove you to start the agency?
Absolutely, yeah. So, working for Blue Cross Blue Shield on that specialized team that was dedicated with a more personalized approach to healthcare with clients is really what began my passion for this. And I realized working Horizon Blue Cross and Blue Shield is the absolute best insurance company, and not just for dealing with it from my perspective, working for them, but also from a client's perspective. Their plans are tremendous. Their customer service is better than any other company, and that's just from my own personal experience in dealing with other companies. So this isn't just my opinion. And having that level of care that they provided, I found that was something I wanted to not only carry to my clients, but expand my client base, and also be able to offer some other types of solutions that I just wasn't able to offer as an employee of Blue Cross and Blue Shield. But I'm happy to say today that I was able to negotiate my departure with Blue Cross in August of last year, and they've been very gracious in continuing to work with me. And I have an agreement with them where I continue to work with my team and with my old team from Horizon, and they help support in all of my clients' issues, concerns, claim resolution, billing issues, questions that are difficult to find answers to on the website, from a client perspective. So anything that I need, I have a team of people at Blue Cross and Blue Shield backing me up, and not only helping with customer issues, but also providing information. And from the client perspective, this is extremely valuable, because oftentimes I'll have a client email me in the morning and with a billing issue or a claim issue, and by 1 p.m. they have their answer back over email. Everything's resolved. There's nothing that they need to do. They don't need to get on the phone with Blue Cross and go through the automated system and speak to someone they don't know. I know their situation. My team knows their situation, and we're able to resolve it quickly and save them the time and stress of having to manage that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the interesting thing about that, Rob, is I got to give up. I don't always get this opportunity to give that kind of a plug, right? Because I also do business with you. Okay. Rob handles my health insurance, and I can tell you firsthand that everything he just said is really an understatement, because I do have, with my situation, I do have sometimes a little bit complicated things, right, that have to be done, complicated questions and issues. He is really, truly right on top of it. I've had other health insurances in my years, because I'm, around for a little while. And when I reach out to him, I text him, boom, he gets back to me. Hey, Vic, we're on it. Boom, boom, boom. Here's the situation. And the key here is I don't always get the answer I want. I get the answer I need.
Yeah.
And that's important. Okay. It's not always, there's nothing in life that's always rosy and good news, but the fact that he's on top of it and can tell me what I need, how I need, and things I can do to help move something along or get something done. I mean, granted, I know I wasn't really supposed to give you like a commercial, but the fact of the matter is that you are, I'm calling you a lot. And he responds to me, and I really get done, and his team responds to me, and I really get done what I need to get done. And it actually lowers my stress level. So I just want to tell you that this guy is the guy. In New Jersey, they say, you got a guy, he's the guy.
Well, it's not only helping for your physical health, but mental as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Health insurance is not easy. It's very complicated, and not knowing how to deal with things like claims, or where do I go? Where does the client go for that? Where does a member go? And just being able to shoulder the burden of that stress for people, and help reduce that stress for people is really valuable. Something Vic just touched on, about, sometimes you don't get the answer that you want. I can tell you that early on in my career, I always wanted to give people the answer that I knew they wanted, or I didn't want to give them a bad answer or a non-solution. But sometimes that's the case. And it's important. I had touched on earlier the fact that there's a lot of turnover in the health insurance business. The only reason that I was able to grow my own, start my own agency was because of the time that I put in with Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and the departure that I was able to negotiate with them to allow that to happen. But the reason there's so much turnover is it's very difficult for a person to start out from nothing and make a living just selling health insurance. The commissions are not, I'll tell you what they are. They're about $17.50 per month per member. So you can obviously tell you really need to build a book of business before you're actually making enough money to support yourself. And that's what leads to high turnover in this industry. And, oftentimes clients will call, member services, or call the state, call Get Covered New Jersey, the marketplace. They think they're speaking to an expert. And that person might just have 2 weeks on the job. So they're definitely not going to know the nuances that somebody like me or somebody on the team at Blue Cross and Blue Shield would know. And that was one of the things that when I managed part of the team on Blue Cross and Blue Shield, I used to stress to the people who worked on that team. I would say, hey, I'd rather somebody wait 10 days to get a correct answer than give them the wrong answer in a confident way. Because if you're giving that wrong answer, they're believing it. They're thinking you're the expert, and they're now operating based on that assumption that was the advice of the expert and therefore correct. So it's tough to find people to be able to navigate this world with you, and that's something that myself and my team, as well as the Blue Cross and Blue Shield team, handle extremely well.
Thank you for sharing. When you're getting you say it's very complicated. It can be very complicated. When you're getting new client, what do you pay attention to the most?
So, to reiterate, yes, absolutely, always speak to an expert. That's super valuable. And you can pretty much tell, and I think not just in the health insurance industry, you can tell if it's a car salesman type person, if it's somebody who's just kind of going through the same motions with you. So the first thing I always want to put myself in the mindset is I don't want to assume anything. Just like anybody else being in an industry for a long period of time, you start to make some assumptions. Oh, nobody's had this situation in a while. I don't need to focus on that. I don't need to worry about that. But everybody's situation is different. And there's so many things, so many little things in this industry that could affect a client in a big way. One little error on an application or a quotation or something like that could really impact somebody financially or benefit wise. So I try to focus on those small details, and really listening to the individual and what their situation is about. Understanding their circumstances, finding out about their financial circumstances, their health circumstances. Is there anybody in the family who's managing a chronic condition or sees doctors frequently? That'll help with plan choice, or maybe subsidies, or maybe we put people on different plans because one person has different needs than another person. And then there's a host of other factors out there that that can affect that. So as I'm going through, it's funny, at the beginning of my career, I used to be able to, while I'm listening to someone, I'd be able to list them off in my head. Now when I have about 1,000 people in there, it gets a little bit more difficult. So I take notes diligently, and I'm typing away as people are talking, and just being able to sort of triage the information that I'm receiving, then seeing it, and then being able to apply it to the calculations and plan choices and benefits and such. So,
well, I think you bring up such an important point though, Rob, is that you see television commercials for all of the different types of health insurances. You see it on cable, and you see it all these different ways. Call before the enrollment period's up, and call.
Yeah.
Nobody's really addressing the fact that there's the need to get into it okay, that there are details, and that it almost suggests in the advertising sometimes that everybody's the same, right? That everything fits the same. And I, in preparation for having this conversation with you, I kind of was watching some of the things. I pulled some up. I'm like, holy crap, they really are a lot the same. I mean, they're not saying, hey, we know that you're an individual. We know that no, they're saying, hey, you got to get in that enrollment. Let's enroll and enroll. Yes, everybody needs to enroll. We get that. But nobody's saying that we're going to talk to you about your personal circumstance. We're going to take you through this process. We're going to show you how to do it. It's not just enroll and you're on your own.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge point that has to be driven home,
Yeah, it's one of the things that I use to, I wouldn't say use, I always include when I'm talking to a client, I always use the word we. Because I believe, and the way that I have founded my agency upon, I believe that, it is a we thing. Like, once you're a client of mine, we're in this together. I'm going to do the best that I can to help save you money. We're both going to do the best that we can together to communicate, changes and things like that. And I look at it from a team perspective, rather than almost like, a client relationship.
Right. That I think is the key.
Yeah.
At least it is for me, because obviously I'm talking to you on this as somebody who's on a stream, but
Yeah.
But also I am a consumer, and I actually need health, and I needed the insurance, and I need the help. So it's much more personal than some of my other conversations might be.
Right. Right. And one of the things that you touched on, Vic, commercials and seeing all these advertisements. As you get closer to age 65, you're going to see a ton more advertisements for Medicare, but that's some big business. But
so I'm 62 now. I'm seeing them.
Yeah, so you probably they start early. But there are, and this is very, very important. There are companies out there that literally are selling lies. I deal with this countless times. At least over 50 clients that I have come to me as a result of finding out that the health insurance that they purchased online was not actually health insurance. Not only did it not meet the criteria of the healthcare law, but it wasn't providing them any benefits. It didn't, and they will. I so much so did not believe that this was happening. I even got on the phone with some of these clients and called myself to get my own quote for health insurance, and they flat out told me that it was health insurance. I asked them very pointed questions. Is this creditable coverage that meets the criteria of the Affordable Care Act? They said yes. And it's just not. And people end up paying, $400 a month for a policy. And then when they go to the doctor looks at the card and says, "What's this?"
But how do you know if it's a scam? What questions do you need to ask, or where should I look?
Ask that. Well, see, that's the thing. I was asking all the right questions. They were giving all the right answers. That's the problem. So the only way to be sure that you're purchasing creditable coverage is working with somebody that you are sure is giving you, like the health insurance professors, or directly with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. And you want to ask those questions as well. You want to get things in writing. A big red flag is if they say the only way to buy this policy is by going on automatic payment from the beginning. Is the way that they lock you in. And I've had clients who have even had to call their bank to stop payment on these automatic payments in order to terminate the coverage, because we've called and I've called with them. And they bounce you from one person to another person. You're on for 15 minutes. They hang up the phone. You call back. It's a scam. It's literally built. The entire business model is built around scamming people.
Is there any in that line of thinking? Is there any way, once it's detected that it is a scam, is there any way? I realize that you can stop paying, right? But is there any way to get back any of the money that you paid?
I mean, other than suing and getting, calls, phone call records and transcripts of calls and such. Yeah, because technically what they're offering, it's not so much what they're offering, it's the way their business practice go about.
Okay, so it's misleading. It's misleading. And I have another question too. Can you pay your health insurance, like especially in a situation like that? You wouldn't necessarily do it if you're dealing with a Horizon Blue Cross, but can you pay your health insurance with a credit card?
Yeah, so you could pay those policies with health with a credit card. You can pay Blue Cross and Blue Shield with a credit card. Yeah, I have a lot of clients that actually get airline miles, so they put their on their credit cards and then just pay it off at the end of the month.
Yeah, I asked that question because certainly business owners, right, would say, hey, if I use my card, my corporate card or whatever, yeah, you can get miles. The other piece of that too is if in fact you did roll up against a scam.
True. Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
You you also have a bank be in your corner as well.
Right. Right.
If the company is still in business and they're still connected, they can just take the money back.
Right. And the real sad part of that is at the end of the year when these people, let's say they bought one of these so-called health insurance policies, and they keep it for 12 months and they pay $400 a month. Okay. That's $4,800 that they're paying in health insurance premium. Let's say they don't even use it. Okay. When they get to the end of the year and they file their state taxes, at least for New Jersey residents still have a requirement under law to have health insurance. If you do not have health insurance, you'll pay a fine on your state taxes. So these people end up paying for their coverage, quote unquote coverage, all year and are assessed the penalty because it was not creditable coverage. And they have nothing to provide to the state to show that they had creditable coverage. So, and that's usually when people end up coming to me. They either come to me at that point or they come to me at the point when they try to schedule a doctor's appointment and they say, well, what insurance do you have? And they say the name of the company and they're like, we never even heard of that before. Because they are some obscure names. Sometimes they'll even have Blue Cross or Blue Shield as part of their name. Yeah, so they get very creative, very creative.
I mean, if I'm telling you, anybody who's listening and anybody who's going to listen to this, because we will be rebroadcasting and things like that, if you get nothing out of this conversation, what we just talked about is extremely important.
Yeah.
If you get one thing, okay, that is so cute. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
I also didn't know it exists. And for everybody who's listening, if you have any questions, please write in the comments and we will make sure we answer them. And Rob will answer all your questions while you're on the stream. But if you want to get in touch with him personally, you can always call his number that's on the screen right now. And let me tell the number for those who are listening, not watching. It's 973-688-9636. And you can call, you can text, right? They can text you.
Text, yep, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. No, Rob gets texts from me. Oh yeah.
The QR code above the Horizon logo is the code that will bring you directly to the virtual office assistant on the Blue Cross Blue Shield website, where you'd be able to schedule either a virtual meeting or an in-person meeting with one of their representatives as well. And they have a few locations in the northern New Jersey area that you can actually meet in person with them. As do I.
Yeah, and check if it's a credible organization in person.
That's the thing that's so exciting about this.
They have a QR code after all. I mean, of course they're
it never occurred to me that was the kind of scam.
Yeah.
With health insurance, you know what I mean? I've other things.
It's still. I'm surprised that no law agency or anything has really clamped down on this, because I mean, I was shocked. I didn't believe people when they came to me, and I'd be like, that can't be. Like they if you tell me I want to terminate the policy, they have to terminate the policy. And they'd be like, no, they just run around and run around. And I got on the phone with a couple of them, and sure enough, yeah, we just went in circles. And then when I called myself to get that quote that day, I was shocked at what they were telling me, you know.
Wow. Are there any other scams that exist in your area?
I wouldn't say, you know, scams. I would say that, like Vic said, there's a lot of things that are misleading. You know, for example, you know, Joe Namath, you see him on his commercial, and Joe Theismann doing their commercial, and call, and you'll save all this money specific to Medicare usually. You know, what they're advertising up front is a plan for people, or benefits that are available to people who have both Medicare, which is over the age of 65 or permanently disabled, and Medicaid, which means you have low income, making less than $1,100 or $1,200 per month. But what happens when you get on the phone with them, if you don't meet that criteria, and they can't sell you that plan that they just advertised to you without actually telling you that they advertised that to you, they say, oh, well, you know, we can't sell you that plan because you don't meet the criteria, but we have another plan we could sell you, you know. And you know, there's the other side of it, why it's so important to work with someone that you know and trust, or ask friends to, you know, who have you worked with, you know, call me, call Blue Cross and Blue Shield directly, is you know, different companies pay different commissions. I have learned that if I focus my business on how much of a commission that I'm making, it's not going to be a successful business. It's not going to be a business that I love to do. It's not going to be a business that's focused in helping people. And I've learned through the, you know, 15 years of doing this, that if my sole focus is doing what's best for the client, everything else happens by default. Referrals are always coming through the door. You know, that the word is getting out of more people that I can be helpful to. You know, so oftentimes I see it a lot with Medicare. You know, people will push. Well, actually, it's kind of coming into the individual market, because, you know, would you rather make $17.50 a month, or would you rather make $100 a month? You know, that's the difference. You know, so of course there's going to be unscrupulous people out there that are selling for themselves and just are focused on the money. You know, obviously they're going to go push you towards that. And in the New Jersey market, that's the worst possible thing that you could do, because the differences in the companies, really all of the companies compared to Blue Cross and Blue Shield, both benefit, access, and service wise, are night and day. And that's from my own personal experience dealing with clients who have been with other companies, and knowing really the size of the networks of doctors that you have access to under the different companies. You know, Blue Cross and Blue Shield has by far the largest network, for example. You know, so by going with any one of their competitors, you might be saving $20 on your monthly premium, but, you know, you're also sacrificing 35,000 doctors that you no longer have access to. You know, so on top of the service element, which is more difficult with other companies than Blue Cross.
I want to get to more details about the plans and health insurance in general, but before we do that, let's learn a little more about our partner, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey. You told a lot of good things about them, so let us learn a little more.
Affordable health care can now be within your reach. Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey is partnering with VMN Business Talk to help New Jersey residents navigate the complex world of health insurance. Their focus is educating and explaining the steps you can take to keep your health care costs affordable. Residents may qualify for a special enrollment period if they recently lost Medicaid coverage, had a new addition to the family, had a change in their household taxable income, were recently married or divorced, or recently lost employer-based coverage when leaving a prior job. Some residents can find health plans for as low as $0 per month. The special enrollment period runs through October 31st, and coverage can start on any first of the month if you qualify. Schedule an appointment today to review your options, discuss benefits, and receive a price quote. Scheduling an appointment is easy. Simply go to www.horizonblue.com and click the Connect with Us button, or call Robert Alfieri at the Health Insurance Professors at 973-688-9636 for more personalized service.
We got a comment from Sonia. Well, first of all, she said she will text you, but she decided to ask a question during our stream. It goes like this. Hi, I have Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield Omnia for myself and my daughter through Get Covered New Jersey. Will my daughter's premium go down when she starts working at 18 and can file taxes to get the tax credit?
Okay, so there's a lot to that question. So
We're not going to give you easy questions.
yeah, well, let's unpack it, right? So so you've got the Affordable Care Act. Okay, I'll just give you some. I'll give everybody some lead up to this answer. So the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. First of all, it's just a law. There is no plan out there that is the Obamacare plan that restricts you from certain access or anything like that. The Affordable Care Act is the federal healthcare law that governs health insurance in the United States. And that allowed states to set up marketplaces where people could go to purchase coverage. And if eligible, meeting the requirements income-wise, they might be eligible to receive money from the federal government and the state called subsidies that they can apply towards their healthcare premiums and out-of-pocket costs. So when Sonia mentioned Get Covered New Jersey, that is the New Jersey state marketplace. And just a small commercial there. If you do a search for Get Covered New Jersey, make sure it's the nj.gov site, because those scam websites will term themselves very similar to getcoverednewjersey.com, getcoverednewjersey123.com. There's all different things. So just make sure that you're dealing with the Get Covered New Jersey website if you decide to go seek your coverage through them. So the subsidies are based upon a person's zip code, their household size, the ages of the people in that household, and your forecasted income for the current year, the current tax year. So in Sonia's example, she was asking, will her health insurance premium go down when her daughter starts working? So the higher the income goes for the tax household, the higher the premium is going to go, because the less money you're going to get from the federal government. Okay, so for example, if you're making $50,000 as a household with just a mother and daughter, and you're receiving $500 a month in subsidies, making your monthly premium $200, if your daughter starts working, turns 18, she starts working, if she's still going to remain as a tax dependent in that household, and let's say she makes $15,000, thus putting your income at $65,000 rather than $50,000, instead of receiving $500 a month, maybe you would only get $400 a month, which would technically raise your premium from $200 up to $300 because you're paying $100 of less subsidies. So now it's important to speak to a professional who knows what they're doing there, because oftentimes I see with clients the tax benefit of having a child, depending on if they're in college or not, but primarily there's about a $500 or $600 tax benefit once a child turns 18. You're no longer getting all those child tax credits and thousands and thousands of dollars. So in that case, if a child who turns 18, it might actually make more sense to not claim that child, because if the child is on your health insurance coverage, the rule is, the law says you have to be claiming that child as a tax dependent that year. So if you, oftentimes it'll make sense to remove that child as a tax dependent, put that child on its own insurance coverage, if their income is less than, say, $28,000 a year as an independent person, as a single independent person, their health insurance would cost $0 a month, because we'd be able to get enough subsidies from the federal and state to pay for the entire premium. So it's important to, talk to somebody who can do that financial analysis. On top of, there's other determining factors as well. There's cost sharing subsidies, which reduce your deductible or maximum out of pocket amounts or copay amounts. And these can be quite substantial. So, the calculation's different for everybody, because everybody's, family circumstances, ages, zip codes, and especially income is usually quite different from person to person. But, but Sonia, I look forward to hearing from you. I'm happy to help you sort through that and walk with you.
Awesome.
And I'm going to put the number on the screen so everybody can see it a little better. Let's talk more about subsidies, because you mentioned it a few times when you were answering Sonia's questions. Can you talk more about it?
Yeah. So subsidies it's a complex world. I'll try to
simplify it, right?
Make it as simple as I can. The thing that you would want to worry about the most is, so first and foremost, I apologize here, my computer is just a little out of juice.
That's okay, no worries.
Yeah, so there's 3 different levels of subsidies that you can get. The first level comes from the federal government, okay? And that money is based on your forecasted income for the current year. And in the example that I gave earlier, you would have, say you're making $50,000 a year, you're receiving $500 a month in federal subsidies. When you do your taxes at the end of that year, if it turns out that you made $60,000, the IRS would turn around and say, well, wait a minute. We gave you $500 a month based on the $50,000 estimate. We only should have given you $400 a month since you made $60,000. You owe us back that $100 per month. So there's no penalty involved there. It's just you're paying back money you shouldn't have received in the first place to the IRS. And it also works the other way. Let's say you put $50,000 on your application, you only make $40,000. If you only make $40,000, you're covered. They would say, hey, instead of giving you $500 a month, maybe we should have given you $550 a month. So here's an extra $50 a month for every month that you had the coverage, and you'll get that as part of your end of the year your tax return. So excuse me 1 second. I just want to plug this in real quick.
Yes, of course. Well, that's interesting to know. I didn't know those details.
No, because that's the thing. You when you talk to a professional and you kind of have to dig into it. And I think a lot of companies probably don't want you to know all the details, right? They want to get you and make a decision. They want to move, as opposed to really telling you what the situation is and how you can navigate the system. Right.
And also it takes knowledge of the system in order to be able to talk intelligently about that. The second layer of subsidies, so to speak, is that in New Jersey, the state actually will kick in some additional subsidies. Now, the interesting part about federal subsidies and state subsidies, federal subsidies get reconciled at the end of the year the way that I explained. State subsidies do not. So there's no reconciliation. So regardless, if you're getting a state subsidy and you make more than your income projection, you're not going to owe any of that money back. So obviously you want to make sure that you're maximizing state subsidies. And one of the things that's important to know here is the thresholds. So for example, if you have a threshold of income at, say, $20,000, hey bud. Say your income is $30,000, right? And at $30,000, you're getting $50 of a state subsidy per month, okay? And you didn't know this, but at $29,998, you get $100 of federal subsidies, right? So
Right.
what happens is a lot of people will say, "Oh, I make $29,995 a year, so I'll just put $30,000 on my application." No, put the actual income, because you might be putting yourself just over a threshold that's not allowing you to get an additional $50 a month, $600 a year, and that's per person. So if you have 4 people in the house, that's $2,400 a year that
Right.
you could have gotten.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So again, talking to someone who knows where those thresholds are, who can do those calculations, who can, do that financial analysis to determine where is a good point to put your income at on the application to maximize all of those subsidies. And the final part of the subsidies is so this is for people who are above the Medicaid threshold, so they're not getting free coverage from the states, they're getting subsidized plans, but towards the lower end of that income spectrum, not only will you get federal and state subsidies that'll go towards your monthly premium, but you'll also receive cost sharing reduction subsidies. They're called CSR subsidies. Mm-hmm. And these subsidies reduce your deductible way down, your max out of pocket way down. Max out of pocket's the most amount of money you could be responsible for towards all of your medical and prescription costs in a calendar year. Mm-hmm. So obviously we want that number to be as low as possible. And copays and co-insurance. The difference between copays and co-insurance, a copay is usually an exact amount of money, like $50, $20, $5. A co-insurance is usually a percentage of the bill, 40%, 20%. So all these things are money that's coming out of your pocket after you pay your monthly premium. So you want to keep those costs as low as possible. And just to give you an example of what it could look like, if you put, say, the difference between like a $40,000 income where you'd have, say, a $2,000 deductible and a $9,000 plus maximum out of pocket with a 40% co-insurance, someone who's making, say, $22,000 or $23,000 a year, would that deductible would drop from $2,000 down to $100, and the max would go all the way from $9,150 all the way down to $1,250. The co-insurance percentage drops from 40% to 10%. So now that this person, once they reach a level of $1,250 out of their pocket, they're done for the year. Everything's covered 100% by the insurance company. If you had $1 million hospitalization,
right,
100% prescriptions, no more copays, no more paying at the doctor's office for the remainder of that year, and then everything resets in January of the upcoming year. So it's always, and those subsidies also have thresholds. So you want to make sure you're not just putting your income just over a threshold. You want to make sure that you're maximizing and giving the as accurate of an income number as possible on those applications.
You remember so many numbers. That's impressive.
That is impressive.
I used to walk away from appointments remembering people's social security just from typing it out so many times during being like, 144662222, and then I crossed over, I don't know, maybe 500 people, and my brain just doesn't even compute that stuff anymore. But I do remember this stuff.
Well, I have a question. What if somebody loses a job? Do they lose their insurance right away? Because let's say they don't have an income for, 2 months.
Right. So good question. So they that person will be allowed if they're getting health insurance from their job. That would create a special enrollment period for them that they would be able to step into the marketplace and purchase coverage. Unless they were fired for cause. If they're fired for cause, the benefits can stop the day that they were fired. If they were let go or left their position or laid off or fired for a non-defamatory reason, usually their benefits under the employer will stay active through the remainder of that month, through midnight on the last day of that month, at which point their enrollment period will begin. So that gives them a couple of weeks. Let's say they leave their job on the 15th of February. They have until February 28th to meet with someone like me and enroll before the 1st of March to start their coverage through the marketplace on the 1st of March. And they will also have COBRA rights. So COBRA is a federal law that allows a person, generally speaking, to buy into the employer-based plan as an individual. So you're no longer getting the discount on the premium you were getting when you were an employee. You're buying in as an individual, and that is, and you would keep the exact same plan that you have for usually about 18 months. There are.
Nope, I think we got a froze. We got
Sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little less, and sometimes the employer, if it's an we good? Yeah. So sometimes if it's an amicable separation, sometimes part of the severance package, employers will say, hey, we'll pay for COBRA for 3 months, or we'll pay for COBRA for 6 months. We saw that a lot during the COVID period. There was federal subsidies subsidizing companies to do that for people. That being said, COBRA is generally extremely expensive. For an individual, it can be anywhere from, I've seen it as low as $600, $500 a month, as high as $1,400, $1,500 a month for one person. Families are paying $2,900, $3,900 for a COBRA policy. So especially if you're not going to have any income, or your income is going to be dropping significantly by going on unemployment, dropping about 40%, for the next 26 weeks at least, oftentimes it makes more sense to step into the marketplace and purchase a policy, receive subsidies, and be able to mitigate your healthcare costs during that difficult period.
I have a question for you, Rob. In that situation where you were talking about, like, if you lost a job, let's say that person lost a job, they had the 2 weeks, but they didn't get into the marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get? I guess my question is, do you get penalized for having a gap in insurance? Is what I'm wondering.
I mean, if something happened, they'd be on their own paying cash for whatever it is that happened. Obviously, that could be a pretty good penalty. But there's no, if you, I believe the rule is you won't pay the penalty for not having health insurance unless it goes longer than 1 month out of the year. So, in that scenario, the person, so when a special enrollment period occurs, if someone gets married or divorced or gets pregnant, leaves a job, loses Medicaid coverage, all of those things provide a special enrollment period. And all special enrollment periods allow you to apply for new coverage 60 days. It's a 60-day window prior to the date of whatever it is that's happening, and 60 days after that date.
Oh, so that's a pretty decent runway, yeah.
Right. So that person, if they kept their coverage through the end of that month, that's when their special enrollment period date was. If they missed enrolling in those 2 weeks up before that date, they would have to go the entire month of the entire following month at the very least without coverage, because you can't backdate coverage. But they'd still have that 60 days to be able to buy coverage for either the following month or the month after that. Okay. Yeah.
I was curious about that.
And what can freelancers do, or small business owners? Like, do they have any benefits?
Yeah, that's a great question. That world is changing significantly over the past, I would say, decade. There used to be so much more small groups, small businesses buying insurance, and as insurance costs have just escalated, and small business and everything else escalating, especially over the past half a decade, it's just become unaffordable. And primarily small businesses want to offer insurance to help keep good employees. That's one of the things that they use to help keep people sticky to them. They don't want them leaving. They don't want to have, because the cost for a business, as you know, Vic, to train a new person and get them up to speed is a lot more than keeping someone who's already been there and experienced with it. So, it's changing into the type of marketplace where there is some new things available in the small group world, things like ICHRAs. These are health reimbursement arrangements where a company can say, okay, we don't really want to spend a few $100,000 on a group policy for all of our employees, where they would need to contribute money, the employees would need to contribute money. We would rather set up an account and give, say, all of our employees $200 a month that they can use to either pay for their health insurance premiums or their health insurance costs. Mm-hmm. Now, the best thing about this is that that money that the businesses give to the employees is tax deductible for them, and it's pre-tax for the employees. So it doesn't count. The employees are not being taxed on it. The businesses are getting a write-off, and it's a way to sort of, kind of an in-between type thing. And we're seeing huge influx in this, and especially the next couple of years. You're going to see a lot of stuff coming out about this.
Well, everything's changing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everything's changing, and I would think that healthcare is right at the epicenter of it.
Right. Yeah. Everybody needs it. Yeah. There's also other private plans that are not through the marketplace, offered to both individuals and small businesses. And so currently the landscape, especially in New Jersey, there is no insurance company that sells a product on the marketplace that would allow a member to go out of state to see a doctor. And in our area, there's a lot of people that are clamoring for that kind of coverage, because people like to go to New York City to see doctors, especially if they have something serious,
Mm-hmm. They're going where the expertise is, not where a geographic confine is.
Exactly. Although it is sort of transitioning. A lot of those hospital systems are now coming into New Jersey. They're in network with, for example, Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So there is a lot changing there as well, but there are older generations just, I need to go to the city. I want to go to the city. And currently there's no option. You can't even purchase it. You could offer Blue Cross $5,000 a month. They can't sell it to you because they don't have a plan. So those are called PPO plans, Peter, Oscar. So there is no marketplace plan that you can buy. Blue Cross Blue Shield used to have one, but they eliminated it a couple of years ago. And so you can buy a private PPO plan now, a small business or individual. The caveat to this is that the Affordable Care Act requires that no plan sold on the marketplace have pre-existing condition clauses, meaning they can't ask medical questions. It doesn't matter if you're pregnant, if you have cancer, you could still buy a plan. You're not going to be charged more than another person, your age and your income bracket, everything, and it's guaranteed approval. In the private PPO world, they do medical underwriting. So there's a chance that you could be denied coverage, or even charged a slightly higher premium rate.
If you have a pre-existing
condition, right? And they look back, and it's funny, as so many people think they could kind of skirt that, like, oh, well, not really. I didn't really have that, and
I'm feeling good. I didn't have it.
Exactly. Their underwriters are always going to go back. There's something called the Federal Medical Database that has everything in it about you, from all of your medical history all the way back to when you were born. Any blood tests you've had done, blood results, when they ask you, like, are you a smoker or not? Like, well, they're going to charge me more if I'm a smoker. I'll just say no. Well, if they're doing underwriting, they're going to see that your last blood test results had tobacco, or nicotine, So it's a super valuable tool actually for businesses, because the portal systems that are available for these private PPOs, you can, once you set it up, you could set up how much your employee wants to pay, how much you want to pay for your employee. You could give them a stipend on the back end as part of their income. There's so many different workarounds with it, but the most valuable thing I've found for my business clients across the country with this is that the portal system allows them to make changes anytime, add dental coverage, add vision coverage, whatever they need to do. They get their own access I'm obviously notified of all that stuff, but they have their own dashboard where they can make their own changes. Employees, somebody's leaving the company, so 3 people are being hired. They can go right in, add them together. We don't have to schedule a call to do that. So it's really really user friendly for those types of coverage.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Is there a topic that you think our viewers and everybody who is listening to us need to know, or like have to know about health insurance?
I mean, we definitely covered a lot of the good nuggets. The other things that that would be uncovered would be really specific to unique situations. And when I say unique, I don't mean rare. Everybody's situation is unique. So there's so many different caveats and nuances where it wouldn't really make sense to everybody to explain all of that. So that's why I just encourage you, use the QR code, contact someone at Horizon, contact me directly, schedule an appointment with me, schedule an appointment with them. It's super, super important. If you get one thing out of this, it's super important to find somebody, not on Nextdoor or on Facebook, but someone who trusts a person who can help you navigate the world of health insurance. It's unbelievably important. It can save you thousands and thousands of dollars, as well as making sure that you and your family are covered, so you can lay your head on the pillow at night. And there's a lot of little nuggets. 2 nuggets I'll share quickly. Oftentimes when someone comes to me who's leaving an employer, and let's say their COBRA coverage is going to cost them, say, $2,400 a month for their family of 4. And the marketplace coverage is going to cost them, say, $1,500 a month. Okay, so obviously we're going to go the route of the marketplace coverage. But there's also a way that you can save having to pay a premium for 60 days, for 2 months. And the way that works is the COBRA coverage can only take effect on the first day that your last coverage ended. But they give you 60 days to opt in. So what you can do is float yourself for those 2 months. It's still within the 60-day window to apply and enroll for the individual coverage. You can save. Right. Now, the only caveat is if something happens, then you have to pay the $2,400 a month for, let's say you leave your job at the end of March. So April and May, let's say something happens where someone is significantly hospitalized and you're going to need, coverage for that. You would have, let's say that happens at the end of May, you would have to pay the $2,400 for COBRA for April and May, because it can only start on the April 1st date. But that rarely happens. And that's another way that, you could save somebody right out of the gate, $4,800,
Right.
So it's a huge benefit. And there, I get people who come to me after they didn't elect COBRA and they're like, oh, I'm so worried. And I'm like, it's all right. You're covered if you need it. If something happens, you could always pay that premium and activate COBRA. And then, of course, the 3rd month down the road, we could always activate, an individual plan at the $1,500 rate instead of the $2,400 rate. The other thing I would mention is, oftentimes I hear this like, oh, I don't want anything to do with that marketplace. I don't like Obama. I don't want anything to do with that. And my response to them always is, so the plans that you can buy on the marketplace are exactly the same that you can purchase direct through any of the insurance companies. That's the law. Anything offered on the marketplace has to be offered off the marketplace. So in the COVID years, here's what ended up happening. If a person buys direct with, say, Blue Cross and Blue Shield, there is no subsidies. So you're paying the full price rate. And let's say they were making $100,000, or let's say $200,000. Okay, and that's why they said there's no sense in going on the marketplace because I make $200,000. I'm not gonna get any subsidies anyway. They get to the halfway through the year, COVID hits. Now their income drops to $80,000. They keep that coverage the whole year. At IRS at tax time, they can't recoup all those subsidies that they didn't get because they purchased direct through the insurance company. You can purchase coverage on the marketplace with no subsidies, so paying a full price rate. And if something like that occurs at tax time, you can collect all of the subsidies for that entire year.
I would know that. See, that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. So those are just two little nuggets of things that could be really helpful.
I just hope COVID never happens again.
Yes, I agree. I absolutely agree.
Well, I think we're probably at the end of our tether here.
What was the most important thing that you learned in this stream?
Well, one, the first thing, the last thing he just said was unbelievable. As a business owner, I think one of the other, I'm a business owner and also have independent, because I'm self-employed, I have that self-employed situation. I also learned that I have to pay a lot more attention to what I'm doing and to what the thresholds are, how to make sure that we're getting the maximum that we can get, and how these different things that are offered come into play. Because it seems to me that the rules change, I guess, every year. Right.
Yeah, the amounts change, the thresholds change. It always going up. Yeah.
So it's something. So I learned. I think the most valuable lesson is to be vigilant and pay attention to your health insurance, just like you pay attention to your taxes and you pay attention to your other things. Pay attention to your health insurance, because in many cases it's going to be the most important thing. That's going to be the difference between losing your house or really.
Right, and especially another one of the things we didn't discuss. Maybe this could be our next live stream about insurance, but the Medicare world is completely different. I've been doing that for over 16 years, and that's an even more. It's a more simple concept, but totally different than what everybody's used to, having coverage from your employer or buying it on the marketplace.
We're definitely going to want to do that.
Yeah. So if anybody has any questions, Medicare at all, if you want to review your current policy, you can always contact Horizon or contact me directly. Or if you're turning 65, especially, and you're getting, stacks and stacks of mail from Aetna and Humana and United Healthcare and AARP, and, we can help you all simplify it for you.
Well, for those who are listening to us, not watching, you can text or call Robert at 973-688-9636. Robert, thank you so much for coming. It was so much value. I don't know, I thought, it's actually more interesting than I thought, health insurance.
That's a true statement, man. You made something that nobody wants to talk about interesting, and realize how important it really is.
This is so true. Well, I believe we're gonna do it another time.
Yes.
One more stream or maybe two, because there is a lot to learn, a lot to talk about. And if you are watching this stream in recording, don't hesitate to ask questions in the comment section, because we will answer, and Robert will get back and answer them. Well, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Vic, thank you so much for providing this space for us, for Robert to come in and share his knowledge with us. And I'll see everybody next time.
I must say one last thing, Diana. Thank you so much for everything that you did to bring all of this together. Vic and I mean, we could. I think you agree with me, Vic. No possible way we could have pulled this off without Diana. So thank you, Diana, for all that you do behind the scenes.
Well said, my friend. Well said.
Appreciate it.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you.